The first order of business today is to check on Tiny. I was planning to take her into the vet, but the last couple of days her ear has just been getting better and better. She seems to be in her regular feisty mood. One of those nasty gophers bit her on the ear, but I've been doctoring it every morning and at night with just some chlorhexidine, and that seems to be doing the trick. Since I don't have to take her to the vet today, I am gonna mosey around and see what needs to get done. It is a gorgeous day and so much nicer than the last couple of days have been. The majority of the snow has melted. There's just a few little patches here and there. I fed all of the horses their breakfast, so now I'm gonna go around and check their waters. It looks like the boys' dry lot is getting actually dry, so I'll be able to scrape it out pretty soon. And all of that snow we got the last couple of days is making the grass shoot up super fast. I can't believe how much growth there is. This is old grass. This isn't the new seed that I laid down, but it still has grown quite a bit in just a few days. We are going to have a few really nice sunshiny days, so I am looking forward to continuing on with my spring chores. I did accidentally forget to turn this water off. It hasn't been running for too long, but it is a little bit wet in the dry lot now. Even though it is nice and sunshiny out, I am still going to drain my hose. I think it's a habit just because it may freeze overnight. It is supposed to be around 50 degrees this afternoon, so hopefully by tonight everything will have dried up. I decided to hold off on baths for all of the horses until their winter hair is shed out. Even with all my poking and prodding, Tiny seems to still tolerate me. Her ear doesn't really seem to bother her at all, but I'm just giving her a thorough once over on both of her little ears. This is also a very busy time of year for Tiny. She needs to stay in tip-top shape so she can keep an eye on all the gophers and the mice. It looks like her ear is almost totally healed up. She just has a little tiny scab left. She looks like she's on high alert and ready for a whole day of patrolling. I do have to run a few errands today, so I'm just gonna pop back into the barn and check on Nigel. Since he just had a tooth pulled, I'm keeping an extra close eye on him. He is really enjoying his mash, and I think he actually likes being next to Skeletor. He is in pretty good spirits considering. I was a little bit bummed we had to pull another one of his teeth out because he doesn't have too many left. Sometimes it's really hard to get them to eat enough mash to sustain themselves, but he really likes it. He is going to stay inside for one more day and then it will be back to business as usual.
It's a little too soupy, huh, buddy?
Frisco Bill is also getting all mashed. It looks like I made it a little bit too soupy for him this morning. Frisco is now missing 4 of his molars. He still does have a lot of chewing surface left on his remaining teeth, so he can still eat hay if he wants to. I want his mouth to heal up super quick, so he's gonna get mashed for quite a while. He will pretty much eat anything I put in front of him, so even when his mash is a little on the soupy side, he will still gobble it up. His birthday is coming up next month and he will be 29 years old this year. I just stopped riding him last year and he has been super sassy lately, so maybe I'll take him for a spin or two this summer just to keep his old bones loosened up. Other than being just old in general, he doesn't have any really severe problems yet. After a few hours of work and some lunch, I make it back to the barn around 1 o'clock. I decided I'd like to have a nice easy chill day today, so I tied up a bunch of the horses in this smaller arena. Skeletor has been having some trouble being on his stall rest, so I've just been treating him like the rest of the horses and he's been getting tied up every day. Today is the first day that I'm going to start hand walking him. Hopefully it will help him quiet his mind just enough to keep him from doing anything crazy. I decided to tie Nigel out with the rest of the horses. He knows how to tie and he stands very quietly, so he shouldn't have any trouble being with the rest of the horses. Once he is all tied up, I am going to go grab Skeletor and take him for a few laps up and down the driveway. Even though Nigel's so old, I think it's important to include him in the normal horsey activities.
Skeletor, what are you doing?
I was gone for less than 5 minutes and Skeletor got himself all tangled up in his lead rope. I'm thinking I might have to get Frisco Bill out of retirement so I can pony Skeletor every day. I think that would really help him with his mind, and I could exercise 2 of the horses at once. I can just tell that Skeletor is trying his best to keep all of his energy contained. Ideally, he should have been on stall rest for several weeks, which technically he was before I took him to the specialist, so he has a little bit of a different timeline. I think it is probably better for him to go out on these little short walks every day, twice a day, than for me to try and keep him quiet in his stall because he's just going to run around. So from now on, he will be getting walked twice a day, just a few minutes. Some very low stress hand walking up and down the driveway, no funny business, and that should help at least a little bit with his brain. He does seem to be a little bit more calm than I was expecting, but there is a lot of stuff to look at and smell since all of the snow is melted. I also think he is going through another growth spurt right now. It might be all of the special supplements and diet changes that I've been doing with him since his injury. He is still only around 3.5 years old, so he does still have quite a bit of growing to do. I was planning on only doing one little down and up the driveway, but he is being really good and I think he does have a little bit more energy, so I'm going to take him on one more lap. All of the other horses are standing pretty nicely. Scarlett does seem a little bit excited about all of the different horses that are being tied in the arena today. She still acts like she's going to try and jump out of her round pen every once in a while when she's super fresh, and today was one of those days. As we were walking away from the arena, I heard a little bit of a ruckus. It looks like Nigel has slipped out of his halter and he's over by Prim. It is springtime, so Nigel thinks that Prim is his girlfriend now. She isn't in heat, but I don't think that matters too much to him. I have never had him slip out of his halter, and I think it's because I have his hair tied up, so it was probably easier to slip out of. I would really like to just catch him up, but I have a feeling he is not going to let me. Before I wound up with a giant wreck on my hands, I decided to take Studman back inside. Studman usually stands tied really well, but I don't want a run-in with Nigel to get him any bad habits. Naturally, Nigel just wandered around like he owned the place. He is a pretty sassy old guy, and he pretty much just does whatever he wants all the time. I was feeling a little bit sorry for him because of his recent dentist visit, but now I don't feel bad for him at all. I had planned on brushing all of the horses, and now I will probably spend the rest of the night trying to catch this little turd and getting all of the horses calmed down from the excitement. Usually he's not too terrible to catch, but I think because he's been in a stall for so long, he was not interested in coming in at all. He was definitely giving me the runaround, and after a while I decided I was just gonna take Prim and put her back in her stall. He can stay out here with Frisco Bill and they can run around for a while and get some exercise.
You little turd.
He was operating at a very high level of sass today. He is still a stallion, so it's probably not really fair to tie him out with Prim. In the springtime, he gets easily distracted. Him and Frisco have been turned out together before, so they can chase each other around in here. I did try turning Nigel out with Skeletor a while back, and that was a complete disaster. Skeletor was playing way too rough, and Nigel just didn't understand that he was
Frisco
so
Bill?
much bigger than him. Frisco Bill understands how small he is and doesn't pick on him too much. They just kind of chase each other around like two grumpy old men. Frisco Bill does get really upset when he can't see Prim. I won't keep them separated too long because I don't want him to get sweaty, but these boys could use the exercise. They have been looking extra spry since I've been giving them some anti-inflammatories. I spoke with the vet about putting Nigel on something long term since he is so old and he does get stiff. Some of the anti-inflammatories are really hard on their little guts, so you got to be careful about giving it to them long term. Since Nigel is having some trouble with his eyes, we are thinking that maybe some anti-inflammatories might help a little, so we're going to give it a test run and see what happens. Nigel doesn't do any work or anything. He just gets to hang out, but it's important to me that they're able to stay comfortable even if they are retired and not doing anything. This is what Frisco Bill does when his mayor is not with him. He really gets upset. I know I posted a little bit of a video when they were getting their teeth done the other day, but he will gallop around for hours if he's separated from her. He has been like this his whole entire life with his mayors that he gets attached to. Even in his old age, he does not seem to be slowing down much. I wish him and Nigel would be better friends because it would be really easy for them to be buddies out in the same dry lot pasture. But I think really they just tolerate each other. It looks like little Nigel is probably ready to be done playing.
Nigel! Come on, old boy.
He is definitely a funny little horse. You can tell exactly when he is run out of steam. I actually let them play out here for about an hour and a half, and now it's time for me to get everybody ready with their dinner. Frisco Bill still has some energy left. I am really interested to see what he looks like this spring because he made it through this winter particularly well. I am not sure exactly why that is. He usually has a little bit of trouble keeping weight on during the winter time. Nigel also seems to be about the perfect weight. It is really hard to tell with him because his winter hair is so
Alright.
thick, so he might be a little bit on the thin side as well right now. After I cleaned the stall and got all of the dinners ready, I turned Frisco Bill out so he could make sure Prim was still alive. I am going to be so happy when I'm able to scrape out all these pens. I do my best to keep them clean over the winter, but when it's like 50 below zero, there's not a whole lot you can do. So naturally, the manure just kind of piles up. I usually end up cleaning them out by hand, but this year I'm just going to use a skid steer so I don't tweak my back again. Nigel did just see me pour his dinner into his feed pan, so hopefully he will be a breeze to catch now. He does get quite the burst of energy, but after it's all used up, he is pretty quick to docile down. And it looks like I may have spoken a little bit too soon. He is still pretty prancy for a horse that just ran around for almost 2 hours. I think he is thinking I'm going to stick him back in a stall for the night, but I'm just going to put him in his turnout. With the weather being so nice, he can definitely stay outside and be totally fine. With him losing his sight, sometimes it is a little bit tricky to catch him. If he doesn't really know what's going on, he'll kind of scoot away like he did there. Sometimes I think he's just being a turd, and then other times I think he really doesn't actually know where I am and gets a little scared. Typically, once I get a hand on him though, he realizes where I am and stands still for me to put the halter on. Even after I'm able to get a halter on him, he is still quite prancy. He also looks ridiculous with his hair in a little ponytail. I have tried tons of different hairstyles on him and he never keeps any of them in. He very much prefers just to have it free and flowing. Frisco Bill looks like he is happy as a clam to be back with his mare. I am also looking forward to scraping all of this old hay out of Nigel's pen. Since he is missing so many teeth now, he won't be getting regular hay anymore. I have a feeling he is going to be really upset about that because some days he does not want to eat his mash.
You can eat your food. Come on.
I think he really just doesn't like me watching him eat, which is a little bit weird, but he usually finishes up all of the mash that I make him, which is more than enough to keep him nice and plump. I don't really have anywhere to be this evening, so I'm going to wander out to the pasture and see how my little seeds are doing. This giant bare patch is a place where I put some round bales like 3 years ago. There must have been something on the hay because I can never get grass to grow here. It does not look like any of the new seed has sprouted yet. We did get a lot of snow after I put it down and it has been a few days, but I think it still might be a little bit too early to see any growth. I went to go check out in Whiplash and Goose's pasture and I started to see just some tiny little baby grasses coming up. I am not really surprised to see these sprouting up first because this is the area where that stream comes through. The ground stays pretty saturated in the spring, so it's perfect for all these little baby grasses to start growing. Since I did put a lot of new seed down, I am going to try and hold off putting the horses out on pasture until probably July. I have enough alfalfa to feed them all the way up until September if they get no grass, so I'm not worried about running out of hay. With the new grass, it's important to make sure that it's well established so the horses aren't just ripping it out. I should definitely measure Scarlet again soon because she has grown so much over the winter. She is really starting to look like a much more mature horse. I am also really excited to give her a bath here pretty soon, as well as get back into her training. Even though today really didn't go as planned, I am really grateful that Tiny's ear is getting better. I was super excited to spend most of the day out in the sunshine. I am slowly but surely checking all of my spring chores off of my to-do list. And all of the horses seem to have made it out of the winter in pretty good shape overall. I know a lot of you guys are really excited to see me start working the horses again, and we are inching closer every single day. The round pen does still have quite a bit of ice in it still. Unfortunately, the skid steer won't fit through the door, so I'm not able to scrape it and I just have to wait until it thaws on its own. But if we get a couple of more days that are as nice as today, it will be melted in no time. I think out of all of the horses, I'm most excited to start riding Stewie and Studman. Who are you guys most excited to see this spring? Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.